parole au représentant des États-Unis.
Well, I don't want the floor. I insist upon the President presiding, if he's going to try to do that. And there's a challenge here and a rule to obey, and it's up to the President to carry out the rules. The President of the Security Council is not a dictator. Our charter and our system of government in the United Nations and in the Security Council regards the officers of the Security Councils as the agents of the members. And it is not within the privileges or the powers of the President of the Security Council to change the rules, to make arbitrary rulings, to refuse to obey Rule 30. The point is strictly up to the President to put this question to a vote. A challenge has been made, and Rule 30 commands him to put it to the vote immediately. I insist upon the President or the Security Council by vote recording the result of the raising of hands truthfully and as it was in fact and not falsely. That's what I require.
Голосовало 8 голосов, включая голос представителя гоминдановской группы, о котором шла здесь речь. Вопрос о полномочиях которого здесь обсуждался. 3 голосовало против. Если представитель Соединенных Штатов Америки возражает против этого и ставит челлендж, я поставлю на голосование Совета Безопасности.
Corrected his statement to 8 votes. I don't require anything now.
In my vote on this question, after you rendered your ruling, the distinguished representative of the United States and myself raised a hand at the same time. You chose to recognize the representative of the United States. I acquiesced because he did raise his hand at the same time as I did. Later, I did not ask for the floor because he made the challenge which I was about to make. Now, Mr. President, I like to strongly protest against the language you have used in relation to myself throughout the proceedings. I protest because your language is inaccurate. I partly forgive you, probably because you use that language on account of ignorance. Then the word Kuomintang is the name of one of the political parties of China. That word means the People's Party. It is inaccurate when applied to myself because I personally am not a member of that party. It is inaccurate when applied to my government because my government today is a coalition government. The substance of this debate has been before the Council several times. In January, in connection with the similar proposal which you made as a representative of the Soviet Union, we had a lengthy discussion on this very subject. I set forth the standpoint of my delegation then. And since the vote has already been taken, it is unnecessary to repeat all what I said. I voted this afternoon against your ruling on 2 grounds. In the first place, because it is beyond the President's power to make a ruling of that kind. In the second place, even if any President of the Council had the power to make a ruling on such a subject as this, the ruling you actually made was unjust, unfair. I represent the only Chinese government which is based on a constitution drafted and passed by the representatives of the Chinese people. I represent the only Chinese government at the head of which is a president elected by the representatives of the Chinese people. There is no other government set up in China with the consent and approval of the Chinese people. My right to be here is beyond any dispute. Thank you.
There are no comments. We shall consider the agenda as adopted.
Mr. President, there will be comments.
Nous passons à la question suivante, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Si je n'entends pas d'objection, l'ordre du jour sera adopté.
The representative of the United States has the floor.
La parole du représentant des États-Unis.
I wish to comment. I have a question or two about the provisional agenda which you have circulated for today's meeting. In the first place, I note that this provisional agenda does not contain the agenda item which the Security Council was discussing at its meeting yesterday afternoon, and which is unfinished business, required by the rules to be on the agenda, namely, aggression upon the Republic of Korea. It is the item which has commanded the attention of the Council at all the meetings during the past 5 weeks, which have not been graced by your distinguished presence. At the end of yesterday's and should have priority over all other matters. Action to remove threats to the peace is the most solemn obligation of the members of the United Nations. The creators of the United Nations emphasized this obligation by embodying it in paragraph 1 of Article 1 of the Charter. Every peace-loving state must recognize that its paramount concern must be to end the breach of peace in Korea. So long as aggression continues, all other issues are secondary. We cannot agree that there is currently any issue so urgent as the fact that war is being waged against the United Nations. At this time, the United Nations should establish firmly the clear principle that the question of Chinese representation is not linked in any way with Korean aggression. The firm opposition of the United Nations against the barbaric use of force has given strength and encouragement to all free peoples. We cannot risk the disillusionment that would flow from consideration by the United Nations under this duress of such a matter as representation. We are strongly opposed to any action of this Council which might leave the impression that the question of the termination of the aggression from North Korea can be contingent in any way upon the determination of the question of